So I think a lot in the press has been thoroughly unfair. We noticed early on that the one thing that the press kept demonizing David and the people inside for was child abuse. Child abuse is not a federal issue. Child abuse should never ever become a federal issue. It's a state issue. Therefore, when the ATF come in and when they botch their raid and then sit up there and say that these kids were abused, we had to do this for the children, they use that to turn your all's attention away from the facts, away from their own encroachments and their own abuses that they were opposing on a people, that they were opposing against the Constitution. And it worked. When the fire started, what did Janet Reno say? I had irrefutable evidence that the children were being beaten. Janet Reno knows this to be a lie. She said that. 2 days later, a reporter asked her to back up her evidence of this new evidence of the kids being beaten. She couldn't do it. She went to the FBI. There was no new evidence. The evidence was from 1987, which was the initial reports from Mark Breaux. In 92, the state authorities came out here to Mount Carmel. They checked the kids. They checked the young girls for sexual abuse. They checked the children for mental and physical abuse. They found no signs. They dropped the case. Why do I still hear about it? Why are my questions, well, your kids were abused, that I get whenever I speak? These are some of the main questions. They weren't abused. They were the most beautiful kids I ever had the honor to know. They loved each other. They helped each other. Yes, they were disciplined. But I saw what it did for these children. The older children helped the younger children. They told each other stories. They did things for each other. I've never seen kids in the world ever in my experience, and I've babysat. I've known literally hundreds of families. I've never seen kids in the world as well behaved and respectful as the children of Mount Carmel. Those people should not be dead. They should be here. I shouldn't be here speaking to you. I should be studying my Bible right over there, sitting in my room at Mount Carmel right now, playing music. It was an atrocity. It's extreme ignorance on our government's part to come in the way they did. They said they had all the time in the world to wait this out. They knew David Koresh was serious about his 7 Seals manuscript. How do they know he was serious about it? He contacted Jim Tabor and Phil Arnold, two theologians that are going to be speaking to you here later this afternoon. These people wanted the manuscript. They heard David's 58-minute tape, and they knew it wasn't Bible babble. They knew that he had something concrete, something they had never seen before in all their studies. They were blown away with the information. The agreement was, if any of you have had the opportunity to read the April 15th letter that David Koresh sent out to these theologians, it says, God has shown me, I think this is a very down-to-earth letter, no deceit here, God has shown me that when I come out of Mount Carmel with my people, people will not be concerned with the truth that I represent, but they will look at me, at the oddity of my flesh, at me the person, at the bizarrity of me, and they will have nothing to do with my truth. Therefore, God has granted me the time, he says. Now, notice the words. God has granted me the time to write the 7 seal manuscripts in manuscript form, in written form, and then I'm going to release it to Jim Tabor and Phil Arnold, and once I know these theologians have a copy that they can distribute to the theological world, then will I come out with my people. And a direct quote is, and you can do what you want with this beast. David never said that he was Jesus Christ, or that he was divine or perfect or sinless. He simply said, he simply had a challenge for the world. If you want me to give you your tithe, organized religion, show me the 7 seals in the book of Revelation, where they're found in the prophets, as it says in Revelation 10. If you can't, let me show you. Challenge is so simple. Maybe he can, maybe he can't. But each and every individual within themselves has to give him the opportunity to do that before they judge. That's not what happened. We were already on trial. As Ken said, they were saying that the ATF agents were murdered before even having a trial. These people were murdered, and all you heard in the press, 4 ATF agents were murdered. Here at Mount Carmel, where 4 ATF agents were murdered by bizarre cultists. That's all you heard. That was not the case. How do you serve a knock search warrant? There's a knock search warrant and there's a no-knock search warrant. You can get either. In this case, the ATF had a knock search warrant. That means they're to knock on the door. We are ATF agents, federal agents, we're coming in to investigate you. And then they come in. It's supposed to be let in, technically, according to the Constitution. How do you serve a knock search warrant when you have helicopters flying in from the back flank? You got 2 cattle trailers pulling up to the front. You got 1 team of ATF agents going to the pinned up dogs that are Alaskan Malamutes, a mother and her 4 pups, and shoot them, while you got another team climbing up on the roof, throwing in, oh, I'm sorry, at the trial they didn't throw, they placed, and it wasn't a hand grenade, or it wasn't a concussion grenade, you know what they called it? A rapid expansion of gases. That's what they call these devices we call grenades. You don't throw it, sir, you place the rapid expansion of gases in the window carefully. Who are they fooling? Look at this doublespeak we've had to put up with in America, on the media, in the trials. It's insanity. An aggressive assault? It's obviously an aggressive assault. Obviously. How do you serve a knock search warrant when you got these guys climbing up the window, bashing in the window? They're going in there to get their evidence, get everyone succumbed, and then serve the search warrant. You got a team shooting the dogs while the helicopters are coming in at the same time. The ATF obviously did not want to do this peacefully. They had plenty of opportunities. They interviewed, 6 months before this raid, a man named Karen Kilpatrick and Henry McMahon, who were gun dealers here in Waco, that sold David Koresh a lot of the weapons that he had there. And they called him up. The ATF are in their house. They're going through all the records. And the ATF said basically, you know, we want to know some information on David Koresh. You've sold David Koresh all these weapons. We want to know about him. Henry goes, well, hold on. Henry goes in the other room. He calls David Koresh up. He says, David, I got the ATF here. They're sitting in my living room. They're going through all my stuff. They're going through all my my records of everything that I've sold, and they're asking a lot of questions about you. Does David say, oh, well, don't tell him anything, Henry? No. You know what David said? He says, well, Henry, tell him to come on out. Put him on the phone. Tell him to come on out. They can come and check anything they want. Everything we got here on records legal, they can come out anytime they want. David invited them out. In the testimony at San Antonio, Karen Kilpatrick got up on the stand. She said, we told the FBI. Henry came in and said, I'm sorry, the ATF, excuse me. One and the same, in my opinion. But basically said, we told the ATF. I got David Koresh on the phone. He wants to speak to you guys. Davey Aguilera, the chief agent, went like this. No. Silently, meaning we don't want to talk to him. Why would we want to talk to that guy? We want to get all the information we can on the guy without talking to him. Robert Rodriguez, the gentleman who was living across the street, the ATF undercover agent. He was invited over. He watched movies with us. We played music for him. We went over to, some of the guys went over to his house, had pizza. He was invited to move in for a week. For 2 weeks he was invited to move in to learn the 7 seals completely. He wanted to do it, he said. We were preparing a room for him. And then all of a sudden he said, no, I can't move in. 2 days later, the Waco Tribune Herald report comes out, and the day after that, they raid us, they attack us. When he was questioned later, Robert Rodriguez, he said, I found no sign of illegal activity going on in there. He told his superiors that. They didn't believe him. This is one of the greatest stories. When he first met with the FBI, he sat in a chair and he said, look, I know what's going on inside Mount Carmel. I know what David Koresh is thinking. Now listen to this. I know what David Koresh is thinking, he said. Let me open the book. Let me show you the Psalms. I'll show you what's going through his head. I'll show you exactly what it's thinking. This is in an interview that he did with the Washington Post. You know what they said to him? His superiors looked at him like he was crazy. Like he didn't know what he was talking about. Told him to get out of the office. He left and went home. So, okay, his superiors don't even believe their own agent that they're sending in there to gather information? What kind of law enforcement do we have in this country? What is going on? The fire. Surely the cult members started the fire, quote-unquote cult members. Oh, by the way, I'd just like to say one thing about February 28th. I had no idea I was a Branch Davidian until February 28th. I thought I was a student of the 7 Seals. I was studying with all these great people I'd known for 2.5 years. I had met Dave. I never went around saying, hi, Dave Thibodeau, Branch Davidian, glad to know you. Hey, come out and study the Branch Davidian doctrine and philosophy. No, it was never like that. It was a total shock to me when I hear on the news that the Branch Davidian compound has been raided by ATF agents. I was amazed. That was the first I heard of it, just to kind of give you some insight on this Branch Davidian thing.